Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blueshirts Breakaway Podcast. I am your host, Evan, along with my other host, Jack, and this is the first episode of plenty for this podcast right here. And a little bit about myself before we get into the main juice of the episode. My name is Evan, and my Ranger fan history just goes back 17 years. My first game went to when I was, I believe, 6 years old. Ranger Islander game. Henrik Lundqvist threw me a puck. It was kind of cool. But that's just a little bit of history about my fandom. Been to a couple playoff games as well, and been a hardcore fan ever since. Jack, I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Jack, and I'm a diehard Rangers fan. I grew up a Rangers fan from my family, and my family's from New York, and down here from North Carolina, and I go to a lot of Rangers games, especially when they play Carolina. So that's always my highlight of the year when I get to go see their games down in Carolina. But yeah, it's been a rough ride, but you know what? Diehard Rangers fan.
Absolutely. And yeah, it just sucks that can't even go to games at the Garden either way, also, especially because I feel like after that last game that happened last night, the Garden would have just been absolutely insane over that. So we're going to end up talking about that. But first, we're going to start off with a segment that we're going to be doing every single episode, at least while the season's going on. During the off season, we can't do this one, of course. But we're going to be saying who our player is of the week or game whenever we decide to record episodes, because this might be weekly, this might be after games. We really haven't came up with a schedule yet, a set schedule. So I'll let Jack start. Who is your player of the game, or past two games, I should say?
I'm gonna go with player of the last game. I'm gonna go with Capo Caco, and yeah, okay, he wasn't the highlight player of the game, but for his reasons, he came off. He could have had a better rookie year, and he wasn't the best on the bench. Um, but he is an absolute stud. He's still very young, and for a guy like him in his second year to get a goal in his second game of the season after having a shaky rookie year, it's a huge confidence boost. And if this team wants to get rolling, they need a guy like him, to have a lot of confidence and to stay hot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one-timer goal that he got, the excitement that he had, I really hope that builds up his confidence. And the one thing that's kind of unfortunate is that David Quinn kind of hasn't been playing him too much, not giving him a lot of ice time. But I mean, after last game, he definitely deserves more ice time. But I was criticizing the lines that the Rangers were doing in practice and then that they rolled out last game, but they ended up working. Before the game, I was pissed that Kakko was on the third line. I was pissed that Quinn put Lafreniere on the right, but it ended up working out. But for my player of the game, I got to go Alexander Georgiev, just for the simple fact that he has not played in 10 months and he goes in and gets a shutout. Just unbelievable game, making amazing saves. And also, I mean, he didn't really have to do as much work because the defense was that good last game, which was still is surprising to me. Just really great defensive performance from the team. But when Georgiev needed to make saves, he made big saves. And I definitely have to give him player of the game just for the fact that he stepped in after 10 months, made and just got a shutout, especially to help the team bounce back. And that kind of brings on a question that I've been thinking about. So, Jack, who do you think the Rangers start on Tuesday? Do you think they go back to Georgiev because of the shutout, or do you think Shesterkin gets the nod just to give him more playing time and to build his confidence? Because he is expected to be the starting goalie, even though Quinn said that he's not the number one goalie just because of how great both goalies are. But if this team makes the playoffs, you need to choose one guy. So you got to see who your guy is. So I know it's the regular season, the first three games, but who are you giving the start on Tuesday?
I'm gonna go with Shesterkin only because he needs, he needs to get hot, and like you said, both of these goaltenders are high level. It reminds me of Lundqvist and Talbot at the same time. They both could start day in and day out, but I'm gonna go with Shesterkin only because at the end of last season, before COVID hit, he was hot. He wasn't allowing goals. He was a top five goalie at the time. Not like overall in the whole year, but he just caught on fire, and he was the guy that we went to, and he was just outstanding. And I feel like he can get that swagger back. He'll be our guy, and that's why I want him to start off early and just get hot and build this confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that idea of a confidence boost, especially against a team that is kind of expected to finish last place in the Eastern Division, which is the New Jersey Devils, who frankly just don't have the best talent on paper. I know they came off a huge win against Boston really recently, but still, if you just look at the roster compared to the other teams in the division, like you have the Rangers, of course, you have the Penguins, you have the Flyers, the Islanders, Capitals, you have the Sabres, even all these teams just on paper are better than the Devils. I do respect Mackenzie Blackwood's game, though. I think that he is a amazing goaltender, and I think that he is top five in the division without a doubt. But overall, I mean, I don't know. I think that New Jersey is still going to be a last place team. So I would give Shesterkin the start as well. It's just hard for Quinn probably to decide right now because Georgiev, like I said, you get a shutout. How do you sit the guy the next game? It's kind of tough, but you could go Georgiev against New Jersey and then let Shesterkin play the hotter team, or not the hotter team because Pittsburgh really hasn't been that good, but I believe Pittsburgh is next on the schedule. You let him play the tougher team, and that could really build his confidence up if he gets a good win or even a shutout against a Pittsburgh team. Which also leads me to another question for line differential next game. Do you sit Tony DeAngelo for Brendan Smith again?
That's that's a controversial question because both guys I think can start. D'Angelo, he it's all in his mental game. He's definitely a great guy. But he has a lot of mental mistakes. Too many penalties, and I respect him for sitting him. Obviously, we did way better without him. However, we still did have a lot of penalties, but I think you just let them battle it out in practice, and whoever plays better gets the spot. Just like with the two goaltenders, just let them battle it out, and whoever has it the day before, you let them start. I mean, because with D'Angelo, it's just all in his head. I think.
Yeah, I mean, also, just to clarify to the listeners, by the way, we are talking about Tony DeAngelo on the ice, not off the ice, because I know there's a lot of controversy with Tony DeAngelo off the ice for plenty people. I'm not going to voice my opinion on him, whether I support his on or his off ice decisions, or rather, if I support them or not. That is something that we're not going to talk about here. But on the ice, yeah, I mean, it's hard to sit a guy who is your best offensive defenseman last year. However, I mean, Smith was just so good last game. How do you sit him? It's just how do you sit him? I think that, which really scares me, is that Quinn might sit Miller and then play DeAngelo and Smith next game, which really scares me, like I said, but hopefully not, because Miller definitely deserves to be in the lineup. If he wants to get DeAngelo and Smith in, just sit Jack Johnson, man. Just sit Jack Johnson, Quinn, because Johnson really, I don't know. I mean, he didn't have a bad game last game, but just, I don't know. I feel like out of everyone that's on defense, he's the weakest by far. So if they're going to sit anyone for DeAngelo, then they should. And honestly, if DeAngelo does get sat out again and just this starts to become a trend, do you think DeAngelo becomes tradable for the Rangers?
I think he could be tradable. He definitely is a good defenseman, a good scoring defenseman. But if he can't have it mentally, I think that's a player that you got to get rid of because, like you said, Keandre Miller, he's 6'5", 200 pounds. He's an absolute tank. He's gonna be the next defenseman on this team. He's still 20 years old, but if D'Angelo's just not right, you trade him while you can because if he just starts declining, you don't after like a whole full season, he's not just there. He can lose draft or not draft stock, but just trading stock, and you know they could get a good amount for him. I think, in my opinion, and I just think that you know we got such a young team. Miller, he's gonna. I have a feeling that you just can't sit him like you said. He's a beast. He's going to be an absolute stud, and in order for him to produce, he needs more playing time.
Yeah, and you brought up a really great point that I want to address as well with Tony DeAngelo. I definitely agree that you got to maximize his trade value here while he still has some, because if he's sitting the whole season or plays the way that he did opening night and then like just keeps declining his trade value, then that's not going to be good for the Rangers. As of right now, I feel like the Rangers, if they really want to, could get like a first round pick even for him potentially, which is very meaningful. Or you could use him to help get a legit number 2 center on the squad. Yeah, Ryan Strome is good chemistry wise for the Rangers and Panarin, but this team is kind of lacking a second center, I feel like. But if the chemistry's there, then maybe you move him just for draft capital, and then you could utilize that draft capital in the future to acquire talent that will help the team right now, maybe to help you acquire a Barkov, who the Rangers are right now rumored to be in the mix for. Because if you look defensively, you have Niels Lundqvist still in the pipeline. You have Matt Robertson. You have even Lieber Hayek, who still, I feel like, has something in there with him. You have Braden Schneider also, who the Rangers drafted this past year. You got all these guys coming through the system, and DeAngelo's just taken up $4.5 million, I believe it is, on the cap. And with the Rangers contracts that they have, I feel like DeAngelo becomes expendable at this point, and the Rangers should absolutely move on from him. And I don't know, it's a tough choice. I'm glad I'm not in Jeff Gordon's shoes, but I would honestly say that maybe trading DeAngelo is something that they should consider or look at. Just explore his trade market a little bit and see what you could get back for him. Just because I really have been intrigued if something goes on in the locker room with him because of last performance. But again, we're not going to talk about off-ice stuff there. But on the ice, from what he is, he's a pure offensive defenseman, and on defense, he just, like, when it comes to in his own zone, he just is not great. He said he wants to improve on that, but on opening night, we just definitely did not see that. And if he's going to continue that way, then I don't want him on the team, especially this offseason when we're going to be in a bit of a cap crunch still. Thankfully, we do have Shattenkirk and Lundqvist's buyouts being less money next year, but still a lot going against the cap. And I don't know, the Rangers are going to have to make a tough choice there. But let's go ahead and talk about now what we can expect on Tuesday. So what do you think on Tuesday the Rangers have to do to win? And don't give me play exactly how they did on the previous game, because that's the easy answer. Tell me how you think they can even improve from that last game, because there were still some flaws from that game, especially in the first period, which I feel like they could have played a lot better.
Well, I'm going to go with, I'm going to use some of the first night's game of an example. Just don't turn the puck over, that's a huge thing. If we turn the puck over and we give easy shots, that's just something that you can't do. The biggest thing for me, though, is less penalties. I still think we have a good penalty killing unit, but you just don't want to drain those guys out, day in and day out, just like having them on the ice, 8 times a night. I mean, that's awful. You don't want to put your team in that situation to where you're playing from behind. And let's say you are from behind and you get a penalty, costly penalty with like third period penalty, that eats up clock, and that's something that you can't afford. But I definitely think, use the same aggressiveness that I saw in the second period against the Islanders in game 2. Be aggressive. I like the way we played. Our strategy with the forecheck and getting the puck into their zone, odd man rushes, that the defense, set up Panarin's goal for the breakaway that he had. And, if you put all those together, less turnovers, more aggressive, same aggressiveness and less penalties, that can be a really good outcome.
Right. I agree with all those points. And there's one thing that I feel like is a main key to what the Rangers have to do to succeed, not just in Tuesday's game, but going forward. The power play just has to be better. It's that simple. You can't get 8 power play opportunities and go 1 for 8 on the power play. It's simply not good enough. It's simply just not going to win you hockey games, which, yeah, you could win if a team's taking 8 penalties, sure, but it's just not going to be enough to help you get point differentials, which could end up being a deciding factor with this close and tight division that we're in. But just simply in general, I'd like to see better work from the power play, because you're not going to get 8 power plays every single game. So you're going to need to capitalize on as many power plays as possible. For defensive wise, I just want to keep seeing the same back checking that there was. There was a good back checking game from the Rangers. They were always keeping 2 guys back there, and I really like that. It limited a lot of odd man rushes. There was really only one I could think of off the top of my head, and it really just helped the Rangers win the game, and it helped Georgiev a lot. This is what I was talking about with Georgiev having great defense in front of him. Having 2 guys back, it's so simple instead of the way the Rangers have been playing for the past few years. Honestly, ever since Lindy Ruffus came into the picture, the Rangers always have had 4 guys up on the rush, which is not going to win you hockey games. Too many odd man rushes the other way, and nothing the goalie could do in that situation. And as much as everyone was quick to blame Hank and Georgiev the past few years for those goals, the amount of odd man rushes were ridiculous, and the Rangers have to keep limiting those and play that way defensively, which is kind of goes hand in hand with why I think D'Angelo should possibly sit next game, because of him not being great in his own zone and the Rangers just playing that way in general. I feel like that I don't know if he's gonna be able to just keep that play going, but we'll see if he is in the lineup. And I don't know really how else you could improve off last game. Like, that game was just absolutely insane. I guess in terms of Quinn, he could give more ice time to Julian Gauthier. I'd like to see him get more ice time. I'd like to see Phil Pedal, Capo Caco get those guys some more ice time. But it's hard to do when either way they're not on your power play units, and there was a lot of power play time for the Rangers. So tough to say that they could do anything there. Also, another thing that I'd like to see, play a more physical game, please. For the love of God, I'm tired of seeing Jack Johnson being the only physical guy on the team. Please, Lemieux, step up and do what we signed you for. Please, Howden, even play with some grit. I'd like to see the 4th line just play with some grit, and I feel like that's going to help the team a lot going forward. And just that's kind of taking a page out of what the Islanders did or do to win games. They play a physical game. I'm not saying that they should back check the way they do in a 1-1-3 formation, but they definitely should take the physical part of their game and utilize it. And I feel like Quinn should utilize the rolling all 4 lines part of Barry Trotz's coaching style in his game. So, yeah, I think that's going to be really the big keys of beating the Devils. And also, I guess one more key, actually, that I kind of just thought of off the top of my head, is just get as many shots off as possible. Blackwood, like I said, a really great goaltender, and you're going to need as many shots as possible to tire him out. And this is a weaker New Jersey defense, and also Lindy Ruff is the one coaching this New Jersey team. If we could get a lot of odd man rushes going the other way, we have guys that are fast on the team, of course, and we just have to make sure we are playing the way we did last game defensively, where you were poke checking, you were forcing the puck to go out of the zone and forcing them offsides. If you could get that, capitalize on odd man rushes a lot, Blackwood's not going to be able to do anything about it, and it's going to lead to great things for the Rangers. So I think that the Rangers going into this game have every bit of an advantage right now. unless Lindy Ruff isn't coaching New Jersey that way. I haven't been able to see. But yeah, that's just the main keys going into Tuesday's game. So let's just go backtrack a little bit. What do you think what went wrong for the Rangers on the opening night game and how they improved it into the second game of the season?
Definitely a lot of power or penalties. They did cut some back, but a lot of mental penalties, a lot of turning the puck over. They just the way their style of gameplay, I felt like was just too slow. They kind of let the Islanders come to them. They weren't playing aggressive. They weren't trying to, force the puck into their zone. Just kind of they just kind of played relaxed and conservative, and turning the puck over was just what killed them that game, and not being able to get shots on goal and just good shots on goal, quality shots on goal. Because when you get quality shots on goal, you allow their goaltender to get warm and loose. So when you do get those good shots on goal, he can make a stop. Like if you consistently get good shots on goal, make them work, and like you said, tire them out. That's what they need to do. And I just didn't see that from game one. And I feel like that could be a major key into winning on Tuesday night, but they definitely didn't do that in game one. And I think, like you said, in game two, they just completely turned it around. And it was two different teams I saw from game one and game two. Two different teams.
Yeah, the difference was truly night and day between the teams, and it was just amazing to see the team bounce back like that. And also, you had the rookies saying that they played with much more confidence going into the next games, which was really good to hear. Yeah, really good to hear. Lafreniere and Miller both say that they felt more confident going into the second game. And I thought Lafreniere looked really good with Panarin. And they did something really interesting that I don't know if you noticed on the broadcast, but they showed how in the defensive zone, you'd have Lafreniere playing on the left, Panarin on the right. Then they'd crisscross as they're forechecking into the offensive zone.
That.
Yeah, I found that really interesting. And I like that a lot also, because you're taking advantage of good defensive play and good offensive play, because obviously Lafreniere is not better than Panarin. I mean, hopefully one day he will be, because then we'd have two really, really great players, superstars on the team. But as right now, it's undoubted that Panarin's a better player. So if you could give him a lot of scoring opportunities, or even if Panarin feels more comfortable on the left to set up passes for Lafreniere, Lafreniere is going to get a lot more point production out of this. And I'm still salty that he didn't get a point last game. I feel like he's
due for one.
Yeah, I think he's due for a goal or at least a point next game. I think he is 100%, and he had one last game. It just sucks. I don't know if only Buchnevich didn't get tied up there on the second goal. Lafreniere would have got a point there, but yeah, in terms of how they improved, I know Islander fans will try to tell you that it's because they had a rookie goaltender in net, but Islander fans and just anyone in general, if you think that's the reason, the Islanders' defense just simply was not good. They were allowing odd man rushes and making the same mistakes the Rangers did. They were pinching bad. They were just doing a lot of things wrong in the game that the Rangers did in the opening night game, and that led to success for the Rangers. And not only that, but the Rangers just were a lot faster. They played a consistent 2-1-2 game the entire way through, the full 60 minutes, except for a little bit in the first period, which concerned me at first because the Islanders did come out strong in the beginning of the game, but the Rangers definitely started to pick it up right after the Buchnevich goal. So like when I say that, I mean the first 2 minutes of the game, the Islanders were kind of showing still that it might be their game, and even a little bit after the Buchnevich goal, they were fighting back a little, but Rangers ultimately just played a better game, and it was really good to see. Quinn, I mean, the coaching difference also was night and day for him, giving guys a little bit more ice time, which was good to see, not juggling the lines too much. He just, again, it's night and day, the difference between those two games, and if the Rangers just continue this 2-1-2 forecheck game the whole way through, always consistently having two guys back, limiting the penalties, it's going to do a lot of good things. And I know that's easy to say, to limit penalties and keep a consistent 2-1-2 forecheck, but that's just the reality of it. And better defensive play like that is definitely going to do great things, but also not sacrificing not sacrificing offense for defense. You don't want to do that, because at the end of the day, obviously scoring goals is hockey. That's the game itself. But I don't remember if I asked you, but did I ask what you want to see the Rangers do next game? I think I did, right?
Yeah, but I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna go with um. I'll start first. Who is the player that you want to see break out in Game 3?
Who do I want to see break out? Or do you want me to go first, or do you want to answer that one first yourself?
I'm gonna add to it. I want to see Chris Kreider break out. Because last game he had 0 shots on net, and he's just better than that. And we just need him to get hot, and we'll start flowing. I just want to see him break out, maybe get a couple points. Just slowly start to heat up and get hot. I think he's a key to next game, is getting him some points.
Yeah, that also kind of brings up another thing for me that just kind of reminds me that Kreider's got to get more in front of the net again, because I've been saying it since opening night. The way the Rangers played in the bubble is without Kreider in front of the net, and it just has slowed down the offensive production from that Kreider, Zibanejad, Buchnevich line a lot, and he's just got to get more in front of the net for both Zibanejad and Buchnevich. Both the goals that they had were not due to Kreider. Both the goals they had last night, or I don't think Zibanejad scored. I don't know what I'm saying there, but Buchnevich's goals and Zibanejad getting the assist there, none of that was due to Kreider blocking the net and screening the goalie. He has not been doing that all season, and I don't know if that's to get more defensive play out of the Rangers, which if it is, I guess I'm a little bit okay with that, but I still would like to see him more in front of the goalie, especially on the power play. I feel like that would get more power play goals for the Rangers, and that would improve it significantly. But for me, in terms of who we need to see break out or be an X factor, that's kind of a tough choice, because if D'Angelo's in the lineup, he's got to be the biggest X factor and question mark and everything, because if D'Angelo is in the lineup, we got to see him be able to play defensively and just be better in his own zone, because if he doesn't show that, then we're going to have some serious problems and questions going forward with D'Angelo. But if he's not playing, I mean, for who I'd like to just see get a point, Lafreniere, absolutely. And like we said, he's due for one. And I feel like that's just like the easy answer, which is why I kind of went off and said D'Angelo. I feel like Julian Gauthier, though, also due for a point, due for a goal. He was so close to getting one last night or 2 nights ago at this point, but he was so close to getting one in that second game, and it just sucks that he couldn't get it. I don't know, though. But
yeah, I agree with you there. Definitely would like to see, the first goal from Lafreniere.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you saw it on the broadcast also, what they showed he does pregame. I find that pretty weird, but also cool. That would be cool to see with a full crowd at MSG. If you didn't see it, he was out sitting on the bench before the game started by himself, like taping his hockey stick and everything, which I found really weird, but like I said, also cool at the same time.
Yeah, that's like original stuff. That's something like, I don't mean to off track here, but that's something that like you would see like Kobe Bryant do, like, like something that like him on his own, that's kind of like what, that's kind of what it would like remind me of, something that he'll be known for.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if he develops to the superstar that he is expected to be in this league. That's definitely going to be something that starts trending, and he will be known for if he keeps doing that, obviously, which I think he will. I don't know why when it's a ritual for him, like we addressed, but yeah, he'll be remembered not just for that, or not just for being a superstar, but also for that pregame ritual, which will be pretty cool. And I still can't believe we have him on our team. But
yeah,
so that's gonna wrap up the episode. I think so. So I hope you guys did enjoy the episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you're listening on, be sure to drop a follow and drop us some feedback down below. Ask us questions if you want. And we'll ask a question for the audience here. What would you guys like to see from the Rangers in the third game? And what did you think of the first 2 games of the season? Be sure to answer that in the comments. And we will see you guys in the next episode of Blueshirts Breakaway Podcast.